In 2023, I posted my first video about the Steam Deck, and when I say the Steam Deck, I mean the original Steam Deck with the LCD and stuff like that. Now, since then, we have a lot of handsets, including the Steam OLED, Legion Go, and things like that came out, and they are more powerful than the Steam Deck, especially the original one. So in today's video, I'm going to try to see if the original Steam Deck is still worth it. So stay tuned. Now the first thing that we're going to talk about is how the device feels in the hand, and the first thing that I will say is it's a little bit heavier. Now if you're playing for like 20 minutes, half an hour, you won't see the differences of that, you won't feel how heavy it is and stuff, but when you're laying in bed and you're keeping the handheld like this, with time it will become a little bit too heavy and stuff like this. I have moments when I have to move my hand a little bit, you know, adjust it and stuff like this, because my hand is starting to hurt. Now other than that, the design is pretty good and pretty nice. Well, it's the same design like the OLED and things like this, you know. Huge console over here, you know. On the back it has these shoulder buttons here, and the controllers are like, you know, put like this, so you will, you know, you can hold it a little bit better and stuff like this. So when it comes to the design, I am pretty happy with it. I wish it would be a little bit lighter, but I'm pretty happy with it. The thing that I love the most about it is that it has these trackpads over here, so you can literally like control the mouse and everything with it and things like this. Then you can go to like the desktop mode and use Linux, or you can even install Windows if you want to, or dual boot Windows with SteamOS, which is a pretty nice experience. Now the thing is that most of the things that I just said, you can do it on other consoles, like for example the Legion Go and Asus ROG. The thing is that those one, they use Bazzite. They're going to have the SteamOS release officially for them, but they use Bazzite at the moment, and I think the best SteamOS officials experience that you will have is going to be on the Steam Deck. And to be fair, I do prefer the Steam Deck, because like this I support the Linux community and I support Steam by making Proton even better and giving it more options. And there's also the ability that the more we buy the Steam Decks over here, then the more the developers will understand that we love our Steam Deck. So if they want to spend, well, us to spend money on their games, they will support Steam Decks. And games, for example, like Apex Legends and things like that doesn't work on the Steam Deck at the moment. Maybe with time they will try to make it work, because from what I saw from Steam, all they need is just a simple button and then their anti-cheat will work on this ones. But because of that one, because of the anti-cheat especially, then the games won't work on the Steam Deck. Now let's talk a little bit about this display, because it's an LCD display, so it's not an OLED and stuff like that. And yeah, the OLED looks pretty good. I just saw it with my own eyes and it feels amazing. The problem is that the display still looks pretty amazing in today's standards. So if you open a game and things like this, the game will still look pretty good. It will still play the games, it will still, you know, display good quality image and everything like this. So the display is pretty nice in my opinion. You know, I understand it's not an OLED, and you can see, you know, like the blacks is not black, it's a little bit white. You can see the typical LCD things, but the display still looks pretty well. And especially when you're playing a game, let's just put the volume here. When you're playing a game and you want to see those colors and stuff like this, you won't have any problem showing the games and things like this, because at the end of the day it's still a good screen to play your game, especially it's a handheld, so you don't have big resolution and things like this. So yeah, in my opinion, the screen is pretty good. I wouldn't complain about it. Now let's talk a little bit about the battery life on this thing, because this thing is probably the problem is the battery life. Now you get about an hour and a half, maybe 2, depending on what kind of games do you play. For example, my most played game on this one is Euro Truck Simulator 2. I really love this game. I played it as much as I can and stuff like that. And the battery life is giving me about an hour and 20 minutes maximum. And I wish I can get a bigger battery for this device, or at least, you know, something to last longer. But at the end of the day, it's still a handheld, and you will be able to play multiple games, some of the AAA games that aren't, you know, on the PC at the moment, on this handheld, and it's pretty good. Now I understand some of the Windows alternative, for example, they do have a better battery life, but again, just because it has a better battery life doesn't mean that the experience, it should be, you know, oh, top notch and stuff like that. No, I think my experience with SteamOS is 10 times more important for me than normally will be having a better battery life and then struggle with Windows and tiny buttons to open. I mean, I have a console-like experience here. So I think it does worth it. At the end of the day, the Steam Deck for me is still the best console that you can buy in today's standards. Yes, the battery is not the best, but it's still one of the best consoles that you can buy, especially from the experience that you're getting. And since Steam is still updating this device and is still supporting and is still putting money into Proton, I think that's a good reason for, you know, just keep supporting the Steam Deck. You know, I don't say don't buy other consoles, but for me, this Steam Deck is still the best one to buy in today's world, especially because the price of it, you know, you can buy them right now for like 180, 200 pounds here in the UK on eBay, and for something like this, they are pretty good. Another thing that I loved about it is because you have access to a micro SD card. So if you're running out of storage, you can just pop in a micro SD card and install your games on a micro SD card. Now, having this experience, and you can just extend your storage without having to pay extra from the Steam Deck when you buy it, it's a really big plus. I understand there's a lot of company who does it, but Windows and micro SD cards, they don't work too well and stuff like that. So that's why I would prefer having a Steam Deck with SteamOS, because it's running Linux, is not as heavy as the system, so you will get, you know, more performance and more battery life than Windows. For example, if you do put Windows on this device, which trust me, I tried, and no, my battery life is going to be going between 50 minutes, 40 minutes and stuff like that. Now keep in mind, this device is 2 years old, at least since I got it, and yeah, you know, battery life got degraded and stuff like that. So I'm talking from my experience if you're buying a second hand, since Steam doesn't sell the LCD anymore. But you know, after 2 years, the battery is still decent enough. I wouldn't recommend putting Windows on it. It's your choice if you want to do it, but personally I wouldn't recommend it. I'll show you the fans first, and then I'll show you a little bit the speaker. Well, I'll say my opinion about the speaker, because the speakers are not the best ones on the planet at the moment. So the moment you start the game, how you can see it's still loading here, it will take a little bit, you know, to load some of the games. Don't get me wrong, it's not the fastest one, but it does the job done. That's the thing. So now the fans have started. So and how you can see, they're not the best one, they're not the worst one. It has moment when it starts, it has moment when it stops, and I don't understand if that's like a, you know, a thing or stuff like that, probably depending on the game. But when they start, you know, you can clearly hear them in the room. I don't know how good the microphone will take it. You can clearly hear them in the room, but it's not going to be the worst thing that you heard in your life. So yeah, now when it comes to the speakers are normal, decent, a little bit probably louder than a mobile phone, so it's nothing special about it. But you know, just take it like this. For games, they're pretty decent. For music, don't. Music and watching a video and stuff like that, they're not made for it. But yeah, in my opinion, the Steam Deck LCD, the first generation, is still worth it in 2025, and I will still purchase it if I have the option to purchase it, and if I didn't have one, because it's one of those things that you're going to still enjoy it, play your games, and especially because it's on the go, then you know, makes the experience 10 times better. But this is my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know if you have a Steam Deck LCD and if you actually still love it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.